and welcome to SEOcharity webinar today with Michael Martinez. Michael will be talking about his 27 years of experience in SEO, something that you have never ever heard before, and you would like to have this opportunity to listen to him and to ask him lots of questions, tricky questions, please. And at the moment, I will pass the word to Anton. Anton, tell us why we are here, why, and what are we doing here?
Yeah, okay. We haven't been doing it for 27 years, not yet, but we more than 4 years now, 4 years and a couple of months. We started in March 2022, and this is SEO and charity. So we try to put it all together, try to use our trust in SEO community in order to ask you for money. For a little bit of money to help cats and dogs shelters in Ukraine. They do need help. We've done it, as I said, for more than 4 years. We collected slightly more than $100,000 all together for this 4 years. It sounds like a huge amount of money, but it's not that huge if you really count it that cats and dogs have to eat every day. They get sick, not every day, not every one of them, but unfortunately regular. And we are helping 5 shelters. It's more or less 300 plus, because some animals dying, unfortunately, but some new ones, some new rescue. They all rescue animals getting in. So without further ado, I'll leave it to Michael and Alicia. But if you can donate, please do donate, because even $5 will make one cat or one dog happy cat or happy dog.
And now a few words about Michael. Like, it's very hard to say a few words about Michael because Michael has been here before Google emerged, and like not here in this room, but on the field in SEO. And Michael began building and promoting websites in 1996. He's also got an SEO theory blog since 2006, I think. Yeah, let me check. Yes. And also he's got a boutique SEO consulting agency with his partner, Randy Ray. And also Michael manages 200 websites. Like, it's, I don't know, how many minutes a day per site do you have?
Well, some of it's automated. Let's just leave it that way.
Okay. So don't hesitate to ask questions about automation. And also in 2021, Michael took a full-time position with a large technology company and now only consults with a few legacy clients. And it's very difficult to get Michael on YouTube webinar. You won't see him elsewhere anytime soon. So grab your chance, ask your questions, listen to us, participate, write the comments in the chat. Let us know you are in, where you are from, what you do, and all your questions.
Simon Cox, fantastic.
Thank you, Simon. And yes, donate a little bit if you can. If you cannot, share us on the social media. Maybe some people who can donate will see us and will come to us. Michael, I pass the word to you.
Well, thank you. Thank you for inviting me. I think it's a great cause. I'm a pet lover. And
sorry, just it's Mike's dogs. Yeah. So sorry, I missed the moment, but I'll let you go on.
That's okay. That's Suki on the left, and that was Peaches on the right. And so they're both
Suki
getting up in years.
is Japanese name, yeah?
It is. My wife is part Okinawan.
Okay.
So we wanted a name that reflected her heritage. So SEO principles I've followed for 27 years. It's hard to synthesize all that into a short talk. I'm going to try and keep it to 30 minutes or less so that there's time for people to ask questions if they want. And so it's going to be kind of a high-level thing. But since I'm talking about principles, I'm not going to get things people may not be interested in. I don't know. So this is my background. I do have degrees in computer science and data processing technology. I also have a lot of experience in full-time software development. from operating system on up to user applications, and did user testing and all sorts of things. As Alicia said, I built my first website in 1996. I had 1 megabyte to work with. It was on a CompuServe account, and I've scaled up since then. I started getting into search engine optimization in 1998, and I've been involved in it ever since. I launched the SEO Theory blog in August of 2006. I think it was August. It might have been December. And so we went over to the SEOtheory.com domain in early 2007, and as Alicia said, I have a boutique agency that it's just kind of running on momentum right now because I'm too busy, and Randy is working on a special project that people can ask about later if they want. So, wasn't sure how to title this slide, but all 4 points here are things that I learned from other people. First, this theory is an attempt to explain. Sorry. Oh, I'm hearing an echo here. Is that okay? All right. So theory is an attempt to explain the known facts. I've had to bring that up many times for the years. I often see people get on the internet and they go, "We're going to share real experience, not theory," and then they proceed to explain how they think things work. Well, that's theory. So the SEO Theory blog is all about explaining how I think things work. I'm not always right. Nobody's always right, but I do try to learn from the people who engineer the search engines and other things that go into producing the web that we use. Other bits of wisdom that have helped me throughout my 27 years: change is the only constant in search. It doesn't help to get upset when something changes in the way the search engine and the website are interacting. You just have to adapt and move on. Someone else once pointed out to me, we only have content and links to work with, and that's pretty much true. But where's the content? Is it on your site or somebody else's website? Where are the links? Are they on your site or somebody else's website? And those two concepts can get pretty complicated as you scale up in your work. And finally, someone could knock you off the top of the SERPs tomorrow. 20 years ago, a lot of people reminded each other of that. Now I don't see people reminding each other of that so much, but I'm always aware that no matter how successful I've been with a website, that something could change and I'm going to have to start over again for no reason other than that's just the way it happens. So what I tell people, what I've told clients, what I've told people on social media and the SEO community is always create real value for people. There are a lot of people out there who are selling shortcut strategies and methods and tools. I don't advocate for them. There are a lot of popular SEO strategies that are built on, I would say, very flimsy logic and advice. They become extremely popular. They'll last for a few months or a couple of years, and then the search engines respond to them, and people start lamenting the loss of all their traffic in the social media. Doing what everybody else does is going to produce mediocrity. That's a point that other people have been making for the past few years. I think it's a good point to remind each other of, that even if you are the innovator in the industry, so the bottom line that I've always told clients, when they ask me, well, what do you have to do for SEO? I say, look, just create the sites that you want to visit or use repeatedly. And of course, these 3 sites, the 3 sites at the bottom of the slide here are my own sites: SEO Theory, the Middle-earth blog, and the SF Fandom forums. They're all pretty old. The SF Fandom forums and the Middle-earth blog still get hundreds of thousands of visits per year. I have not written much for SEO. Traffic is way down. I've had people come and laugh at me and say, well, your traffic to SEO Theory isn't very good. Yeah, well, it's because I'm not working on the website. So it's still there. It still gets a reasonable amount of traffic. People contact me occasionally about old articles that I've written, and I occasionally add something new. I added a new article a few days ago. So it's not going to go away anytime soon, hopefully. The search universe. This was something that I had a lot of discussions with people back in the 2000s, And those people, some of them are no longer with us. Some of them have left the industry. And so I kind of miss these discussions. But this principle of thinking of everything in a larger meta scale still works for me. Uh, there are lifespans to everything, to websites, to queries, to links. They all eventually fade and die. Sometimes some queries come back to life, and I picked this query, homepage backlinks, as an example. It's not a good thing for people to search for. Homepage backlinks were pretty much put to rest by Google over a decade ago with the Penguin algorithm. Matt Cutts, they released the algorithm in 2012. Matt Cutts came out in 2013 and said, yes, we went after the homepage, and now we're going to go deeper into these linking websites and find the links and get them out of the index. It's surprising to see that this still comes back. This query still comes back. Somebody's out there promoting homepage backlinks. I personally don't advocate the use of them. They are going to work for a while. You know, if you create a new spam network or whatever, it's going to get crawled, it's going to get indexed, and when the algorithms have time to catch up, they'll figure it out, and those links are going to stop working. So this is just one example of why I try not to follow the crowd, because sooner or later you get enough people building momentum around a bad idea, and it's just going to backfire on you. So let's talk a little bit about AI summaries. Everybody's been into AI summaries. I noticed, it's not on this slide, but in 2023, Bing switched over. They added AI summaries to their search results about a year before Google did. We had spent 8 years building up our Bing traffic for our portfolio, and we lost 90% of that traffic overnight. Most of it's never come back. I've stopped trying to optimize for Bing then. But I warned our premium newsletter subscribers that if Google follows what Bing has done, if they start putting these summaries at the top, you're going to see massive losses of traffic. And you need to start preparing for that now. Now, not every site has lost traffic over the last year, but a lot of people that lose traffic will blame the algorithms or they'll blame something when really they're shooting themselves in the foot. And this actually just came up this week. There's a gaming website that started losing traffic in March or April. And he's gone to a bunch of SEO communities and he's asked for advice and opinions on what to do. And a lot of people are saying, well, you know, you ran into the quality algorithms and all this stuff. I took a look at the site on the Wayback Machine, and I noticed that he made some changes in what's appearing on the page sometime in February, late February, early March. And that's probably about the time that Google started running into these things. When I went and looked at the site in the search results yesterday, there were only about 4 pages left in the index for me, and they all had the same meta description. And they all came from this widget thing that he added in February or March. Is that his problem? I don't know, but it looks like Google thinks that he has a duplicate content issue. And that's probably why he got everything de-indexed. A lot of people have just said, look, you're publishing AI slop on this website. He came back and said, no, 3 friends and I have been writing this content. They just write the content that way. AI slop is a phrase that has become popular in the last year or so because we've seen it in the tech media. You can't just dismiss people's content as AI written. AI has been writing content for the news media for over 50 years. Just because content is produced by AI doesn't mean it's going to get a website penalized or de-indexed. It doesn't work that way. The AI summaries that people are complaining about these days, and of course, we're talking mostly about AI overviews. They are written by a separate system. I've been telling our newsletter subscribers this for years. It's basically Gemini, one of the Gemini models, and all the AI systems, the LLMs, are just going out and searching the web. They're using search engines, and they summarize the results that they get. But they're cherry picking which results they're going to summarize. They're going for what they consider to be authoritative search results. And the question that you should be asking, whose idea of authority is at play here? It's not yours. It's not mine. Okay, I can give you my opinions on what is an authoritative website. They may or may not match what the search engines think. And so the LLMs now have their own ideas of what constitutes authority. So I've always advocated for diversification in search. Don't just rely on Google. Don't just rely on major search engines like Google and Bing. There's social media out there. There's web forums. I mean, you can build a lot of visibility. PR teams have gotten a lot of attention in the last 2 or 3 years because they've proven that they can get media attention for websites. And it's important to remember that Google should not be your only source of traffic. It's always come back to kill a lot of people who depended too much on Google. And Google Analytics should not be your only source of measurement. I run into this all the time. People show me Google Analytics data, and they go, well, we've lost this and we've lost that. It's not always the case. Any JavaScript-based analytics platform is going to have limitations in what it can tell you, because according to some studies, as many as 40 to 60% of all browsers on the web are now blocking JavaScript. You are not clocking all your visitors in Google Analytics or Matomo, and I use Matomo, or other JavaScript-based analytics. You have to look at other sources of data. And I've had people tell me they don't want to look at the Bing console because that webmaster data shows so many more visits to a website than what they see in Google Analytics. People need to stop thinking that Google Analytics is telling them the whole story. Bing says it's sending a lot of traffic to your website. Maybe. I mean, not everybody's going to see that. If that's the case, then you need to dig deeper into your analytics and maybe bring some other analytics into the picture to understand what's going on with your website. So a lot of people who complained about lost traffic for the Google AI overviews, we discovered that direct representing part of that picture. Does that mean that if somebody clicks on a link in an AI overview that it's not getting attributed to Google? I don't know. I can't say yes or no. But I've seen the pattern on multiple websites where if the Google traffic comes down, the direct traffic goes up. And so this is something that everyone needs to investigate. It's not going to solve everybody. Yes, check your log files. It's not going to solve everybody's problems. It's not going to answer everybody's questions, but you're going to get a bigger picture when you look at more than just one analytics platform. And so that's a principle I've lived by for over 25 years. And I'm trying to get to the last slide here. It's kind of slow. There we go. Oh, no. Sorry. This is okay. So large language models. I've studied AI, machine learning, large language models for many years. I've reported on it to our newsletter. I haven't really written much on the SEO theory blog about this because the conversation in the SEO community is so confused. I don't see the real value in trying to compete with all that stuff. They're looking for reliable and trustworthy information. Whether they are themselves reliable and trustworthy is another issue altogether. They are trying to determine these things. They are trying to improve. And brand company, and a lot of people recognize this now, and I've been telling people this for a couple of years. Brand value websites are being better treated by the large language models than other websites. Does that mean you shouldn't launch a new website? No. Every brand started out with a new website that nobody had ever heard of before. Every brand started out as a small company. Every brand started out with maybe some investment capital, and they didn't know if they were going to be successful or not. You can talk about the large retailers, the large manufacturers, the large software platforms that all started out at the bottom. You have to build up brand value. And that means getting people to talk about you. It doesn't mean go out there and astroturf the web with a lot of fake media or whatever. I mean, yes, it's going to work for a while, but it's not going to fool the large language models because they're using search engines that are machine trained on the entire web. Even if they don't index the entire web, they're crawling it. And they see the patterns that legitimate brands create in the information about them versus the patterns that astroturfing fakers make. And it becomes easier year by year for them to tell the difference. So, you can say, oh, well, it's all about EAT or whatever. Doesn't matter. They're having an impact on what users are shown and what they see because they're learning from everything that we do, either as brands or as people trying to fake it. And so that's the end of that presentation. It's a little less than 30 minutes, but
Just a moment. Okay. Thank you so much, Michael. I'll put away the presentation. You can find Michael on LinkedIn solely at the moment, except for his newsletter and his blog, and also he's got a community, and for some very small amount of money you can join it and get like all that wisdom also delivered to you, I think, weekly. And Michael, you've just a moment, I've written it all here. So
for what it's worth, I'm also on Mastodon.
yeah. I
I'm
forgot
on
about
the,
it
the
entirely.
t.I. That's okay. That's okay. I mean, Mastodon is it's fairly popular, but it's still earning its way into the SEO community. But I prefer it over Blue Sky and Threads.
Okay. So you've mentioned that someday you are not going to be the first, and don't mean you, I mean any random SEO like me. Well, what about if it happens to you? So you wake up, all your websites are not ranking, none of 200 websites, none of the client websites, and none of them. What's the first thing that you are going to do?
I assume I screwed something up, which I do. Okay, when I was on Facebook years ago, we're helping with the dumb SEO questions group. I always had tried to jump in with some experience for a lot of the questions, and somebody once asked me, "How do you know so much?" I said, "Well, I've screwed up a lot of websites. You have to not be afraid to make mistakes." And as someone who operates his own web server, I have taken hundreds of websites offline like that. And there was one time when I got sick. I don't remember what it was. This was years ago. I was sick for a week, and I didn't know it. But our entire server was offline for like 9 or 10 days.
Wow.
I learned at that time that if Google can't get to your website in 10 days, it's going to de-index the whole thing. So over 100 websites were gone from Google overnight. I got it back in, but and just fixed the problem with the server and went back to Google and resubmitted the XML sitemaps and the home pages, and within a few weeks it recrawled everything, and we got most of our traffic back. That's just one of many disasters that I've lived through, and I just don't let them get me down. There's always a way to come back. Maybe you have to publish some new content, or maybe you have to restructure the website or something like that. But I don't fear dying in Google search results. It's happened to me many times.
There's a question from Simon Cox. He's asking, is there any hope for the independent web, or is everyone just blinkered to the closed platforms?
Well, I guess it depends on what you mean by hope. I'll share something about my Twitter experience. Up until, I'd say, around May or June of 2020, I was getting around 300 to 500,000 views on Twitter every month with just 18,000 followers, just posting random thoughts on Twitter. And, back then you couldn't post the long things. You were stuck with, I think, 280 characters or something. That died in the pandemic. By the end of 2020, my monthly views were down to about 50,000, and it just bought the platform and turned it into what it's become today. I was already done with it. So, for me, I've already lived through that death of a sphere. It became less useful because of the pandemic. And at the time, I wondered, well, where did all these people go? I think they went to the video platforms. And I started telling the people in our premium newsletter, the web is always going to be here, but probably video is the way of the future. And I think I started telling them that in 2021. And towards the end of 2021, 2022, I encouraged my partner, Randy, to get on YouTube and start doing what I didn't have time to do, which was build a channel. Unfortunately, he got cancer, developed multiple myeloma, and spent a year and a half, 2 years going through chemotherapy. So that kind of held him back. But he's now got a channel called the Literate Text, which is doing he's growing his audience, and I've encouraged him to just focus on the video. We're going to someday, when I'm less busy, I'll get back into producing more videos on a regular basis. But for me, that's just something that's in the future. For clients and for the people I work with, I tell them, look, you've got to accept that video is now a big part of where everybody is at from the web.
Should they be producing the video with their faces in them, like personal brand stuff and all that kind of things, or what?
So it's funny. My Middle Earth blog, it still gets over 100,000 visitors a year, and then hundreds of thousands of page views and things. People still ask me, are you ever going to do Middle Earth videos? Because they're very popular. There are Middle Earth video channels that get hundreds of thousands of views per video. And I don't have time to do that. That's that I can compete with, because some of them are using AI. A lot of them go out and get a lot of pictures, and they show pictures. They're very glossy. They're not just somebody sitting there talking to the camera. I ran an experiment last year. I did take time to run an experiment last year with 20 or 30 videos based on some of my Middle Earth blog posts. I immediately got pushback because I used Google's Notebook LM to generate podcasts, just talking heads. I added an intro to each video. I said, what you're about to hear is an AI generated discussion of my blog post, whatever the topic was. And people complain. It's like, we don't want to listen to this. So, okay, I'm not in a position where I can go out and do a lot of video stuff. So, Alessia, that answers the question that you asked me before we started the webinar. But yeah, that's why I'm not doing it. I just don't have time.
Interesting. I made just one video with a Google Notebook LM, and my community actually liked it. They said, "Oh wow, that's very cool. That's nice. Give us more." But I just don't like it myself, so I just didn't proceed.
Yeah, but maybe if you start doing it every week, they'd
been all.
Yeah, maybe I just did too many of them. I don't know.
And here's a question from Michaela. In your current workflow, which SEO tasks do you automate with AI?
Oh, I knew I was going to get in trouble with that one. So, I can't talk about what I do at work for my employer, my full-time employer. But what we do on our server with our portfolio is, years ago, when I started to see auto updates for the plugins kick in, I tested them. And early on, we did run into a problem where an auto update destroyed a website, and I had to rebuild it from scratch. But they got that worked out. The WordPress developer community are very good about testing their plugins. And so we automate a lot of the updates on these websites. Now, some of the themes that we use, they kind of mess that process up. I don't know why. I don't have time to update the theme on every website because they all have specific concepts, and sometimes it's just hard to keep a concept going because it's an older idea. But so that's one of the things that we do for automation. Another thing that I've experimented with is there are various plugins that will do link analysis, your internal link analysis for you, and they'll report to you when you get broken links. Why do links break? Well, somebody changes something somewhere, or if you allow comments on the blog, somebody might post a broken link. Another thing that I've done for automation is I added a Schema plugin to a couple of dozen websites. Now, I did this for an SEO experiment earlier this year. I might as well talk a little bit about that. So there are a number of Schema plugins out there, and I picked the one from schema.app, and I talked to someone at the company. I said, I'm going to run this experiment. What do you think is going to happen? He said, well, it's probably not going to be as effective as we think there are our enterprise services. So he warned me up front, don't set high expectations. I put it on about 25 blogs, and I picked another set of 25 blogs that I didn't put it on, and ran the experiment for 3 months and didn't put much content on or anything like that. And I did notice improvement, generally speaking, for the Schema group that I didn't notice for the non-Schema group. Now, that's not to say there wasn't improvement in when I looked at the patterns. Clearly, there was a slight advantage to the schema group. Now, there are other factors that could have impacted that, like the set of blogs that I chose might have been just better quality overall. It's not a definitive experiment. I did try
And
it on some client sites. Go ahead, Alicia.
you placed the schema just article, or did you vary it like product schema
I
or
just
something?
I put the plugin in there. I put the plugin in there and I turned everything on in the plugin. It has a lot of options in there. And
Oh,
I
okay.
just go for it. Okay. And I was both busy and somewhat ill with colds and flu-like infection earlier this year, not COVID. And so I didn't have a whole lot of energy for blogging. So there wasn't much that changed on these websites. Did the algorithms improve things, or it's hard to say, but overall I saw better performance on the sites with the schema app plugin than I saw on the websites without it, and so I feel confident that it's a good plugin. Now, that said, Ahrefs just came out this week with a blog post that I was not happy about. They ran a study. They're trying to answer the question: does adding schema to your website help or not? And their conclusion was they couldn't really tell. Now, to their credit, they did a better kind of analysis than I normally see in SEO web. I mean, a lot of people, it's easy to do a correlation study. And correlation study is not going to show you anything about cause and effect. So, but they used a difference of differences analysis, and that's a much more reliable analytical method. But I had a number of questions about the study. The way they described the methodology was not good, in my opinion. It doesn't really answer a number of questions, like how did you pick the sites? Well, I know that they got them from a tool. It was a random selection and they narrowed it down, but they didn't really give us much indication of how they picked those sites. They also couldn't tell us, whose schema plugins or whatever, how was the schema added? How much schema was it added? So how well was the schema implemented? There was nothing about validation. There are just a lot of questions I had about the blog post. So it's not a harmful study, in my opinion. It's just not a very helpful study. And of course, they came to the same conclusion. It's like it's not going to hurt if you add schema to your website. Maybe some people will see improvement, maybe not. And what I was about to say earlier was I tried this on 20 client websites. I don't have as much control over those websites as I do over our own. But I didn't really implement that experiment very well. First of all, I had 10 schema, 10 not schema. So that's a smaller set. And so you get less data. And of course, those sites are not as popular as some of our own websites in our portfolio. So I wasn't very happy with that experiment. It wasn't conclusive. Maybe a couple of sites did better with the schema, but I think people need to try it for themselves. And if you try it with one plugin and you're not happy with the results, try a different plugin. You may be using an SEO plugin you like that's like a comprehensive, we do it all kind of thing. Don't limit yourself to that. If it allows you to turn off the schema, then turn it off and put another plugin on there. Don't worry about how's the website going to perform or something like that. The search engines understand performance issues vary over time and by website. So yeah, go out and experiment with stuff like that.
I liked what Gianluca wrote about that Ahrefs experiment, because he realized that all those websites that they took as as a data set, they were already having citations from AI overviews, so quite a lot. And therefore,
That's another
how can
point
you
that they
see an
raised in the article.
improvement
Yeah,
in this data set if they already are there?
if you're
Yeah, so
already,
it's not.
yeah. So yeah, that's another flaw in the experiment. I'll call it a flaw. It's it was a design choice. I guess we could say that. In terms of automation, I guess what you didn't ask in that question is like, am I using AI to
Yeah,
generate
she
content?
asked. She asked.
I have
She asked.
experimented.
It was, yes,
You
it
did?
was next question.
How do you? Okay. So I I have used AI to write some content, both for our own sites and for clients. I'm not afraid of AI content. AI has been used to generate content for financial news and sports news and some other site types of news sites for over 15 years. The search engines are comfortable with it. There's no problem with that. It's, what is it that you're using the AI content, the AI tools to do? If you're just regurgitating what's on the web, then how does that help you stand out? What unique value are you creating for your websites with this AI written content that isn't already out there on the web? It's hard to compete with mediocrity when you're just being mediocre. So what I do is I give the AI tools information and or opinions that I feel are relatively unique. I don't know everything about what's on the web, but what I'm fairly certain I don't see in my web browsing, I will use that to compose seed content. I'll give it to one AI tool. It will. I don't go into the pretend you're a PR writer or whatever. I just say, look, I want this style of writing, and it gives me something, and then I'll go to another AI tool and I'll have it rewrite it, and then I'll go in and I'll edit it as a human. I did do one experiment where it was just purely generated AI content. We gave it a topic. It wrote the daggum article. I mean, it's still indexed, but it doesn't get any traffic. So we're going to leave it up on that website. I'm not going to tell you what the website is because most of the content on that website is human written, and it still gets a fair amount of traffic. But it's an experiment anybody can run for themselves. I think you need to give the AI real information, real opinions or something, and just have it improve what it is that you want to say. Don't try to generate original content with the AI. I don't think that's going to work very well.
But for example, okay, just asking questions, Simon Cox, so I don't forget it, and then return back to other. What is your happiest moment with the Middle Earth blog?
I don't know how to answer that. In terms of traffic, one of the articles that got the most traffic was one I didn't expect. It was it's something about Tauriel, in the female elf in the Hobbit movies. She's not in the books, and somebody asked, is she in the books or something like that? That was one of the most popular articles I wrote. But for me, the happiest moment, I guess, it's when the comments run into like the 20s or 30s on a blog post. Some of those blog posts, they don't get any comments at all, and I think, did I do something wrong? Or are these people just not interested in it? A lot of the posts that I put on the blog are answers to questions that people submit. I have a submit a question form on the website, and I have a queue with dozens of unanswered questions in it. And sometimes I'll put something up there, and they'll just go off and to talk and chat among themselves and bring up things that I didn't think to bring up. And so it's hard to pick one. It's like, oh my God, I just love this discussion. There have been so many of them. I've been writing that particular blog since 2011. That the main website that was on zenite.org, it got hit by the Panda algorithm. Although I didn't realize it at the time because we only lost 20% of our traffic. About 50% of the traffic at that time was coming from Google. So when you lose 20% of your traffic, you're losing 40% of your Google traffic under that circumstances. And I wiped the whole website clean for about a month. I just took it down. And after a month, I thought, well, I could probably start over with a blog. And so I started the Middle Earth blog in the second half of 2011. And I just gradually built it up over the years. And so at its peak, when I was able to write frequently, I was getting about 500,000 visits a year. So it's come down then. I know a lot of people would love to have 100,000 visitors a year. But for me, it's like, it's kind of in the denouement. I don't know if I'll ever bring it back because, again, video is killing everybody on the web. But, so Simon, thanks for the question. I've had many happy moments on that blog.
Do you think, like everyone, I think that some industries are more or less okay without video? Like they have video as their core function, like, for example, adult industry or something, but it's not something that they compete with YouTube. No?
Well, I've never done SEO for the adult industry, although I know a few people who have. So that, I mean, I don't know. I mean, I guess they kind of struggle too. I thought there was a lawsuit from Pornhub or somebody a couple of years ago over something. about people stealing their content. So um, we all have our challenges, right? mine is YouTubers who do videos that I can't stand to watch, and Pornhub's is other people stealing their content and republishing it. I don't know.
But it's been always there with them. From what I know, they are quite happy, and like they are very happy they are not in the usual SEO, so they don't get engaged into those algorithms that much.
Well, yeah, I don't. I mean, I did read a news story last year. I forget how I got to it, but apparently, the workers in Japan that are in that industry, I don't know if it's in the video industry or the actual street work or whatever, they're getting paid less and less and less.
Oh.
The competition is fierce, and that's kind of symptomatic of the overall economy, the world economy. As well, here in the United States, there are a lot more people trying to be online marketers, and they're starting their own businesses online because they've lost their jobs. They've lost their jobs in technology or manufacturing or logistics. Those are the three industries that I follow that have really been hit hard in the last. What are these people going to do to support themselves and their families? Well, they're going to have to, go out and do gig work. They're going to have to start their own companies. All that competition is driving down the income. So I've known a couple of people who did gig work for a while, and they said it got so expensive. This was before the gas prices, the petrol prices here in the U.S. started rising, but it all got so expensive, so hard to get those gig jobs that they had to switch to other things. So I think that even the big online video industries like the adult videos, I think they, as more people get into those things, whether well funded or not. And then you have platforms like OnlyFans where the performers can just basically do it for themselves. Uh, all the competition is going to drive down the revenue for even the biggest players, and that's something that SEO can try to compensate for. But in the end, you can't really do anything about the fact there are a lot more competitors in the field than there were a few years ago.
I've also seen some rants from YouTubers that they are getting less and less views too because of AI that is training on their videos, and they foresee that in the future they might lose lots of views with AI substituting them.
A lot of established YouTubers are very much aware of the fact that there are algorithms involved, and so those that I follow closely, not in SEO, just random stuff. Um, they say much the same thing. They're very concerned that they're getting fewer views, that the algorithms are playing with them, and that AI. A couple of the very popular ones that I followed, they came out and they said to their followers, "Look, my content's being stolen by AI, and there are fake channels out there using my content. Please report those channels, and make sure that you bookmark this one. And also, people report that subscribers become unsubscribed without doing anything, and so they have to constantly remind their subscribers to resubscribe. I guess the algorithms are doing that. So yeah, and that's all driven by machine learning, whether it's on YouTube or the YouTube channels. Machine learning is constantly mixing things up, and it's making it harder for well-established YouTubers to stay competitive. So yeah, that's a big issue there.
And about tools, do you use any tools? There's another question. I just rephrasing it a bit. Do you use any tools apart from like Google Search Console for your SEO? What do you use?
I do use tools. I don't like to name tools because I'm afraid they might sound like endorsements. But I mean, it's basically the standard tools. SEMrush, Ahrefs, um, SimilarWeb. Whether they have a free version or a paid version doesn't matter. I use what I can get to. Uh, Sometimes I have control over my budget. Sometimes I don't. When I was doing my agency work full time, we did have subscriptions, and we changed them time a couple of times.
They
For our
should they
blogs,
should listen right now and give you a full subscription for free. So and next time you will mention them. Yeah. I don't mention tools, but SEMrush is very good.
I've had people do that. I would review tools on the SEO Theory blog for free without hoping or expecting any compensation, and then they'd contact me and say, okay. And I felt bad about that. I mean, I wasn't depending on that for, income or support or anything like that. There are people who do it that way. That's the business model they've chosen. I don't want to take from that. And I'm not as popular as I used to be because most of my work is now done, for the premium newsletter or for my current employer or for legacy clients. I'm not out there, really putting myself out on the web that much anymore. So but I've used all the major tools. I've used or talked to several AI monitoring platforms. The one thing that I keep reiterating to people who ask me about it is these are models that you're looking at. They are not monitoring actual data. I've seen one company so far come out and say, yes, we are modeling actual data. We are showing you actual data. But the way they're collecting their data is through a panel. I'm guessing that people install in their web browsers. I don't know, but it's an opt-in process. I'm not going to name the company because I haven't used the system. I don't know. I don't have an opinion on it, but it's out there. It's an index in Google if you want to go look for it. Modeling is not bad. Modeling is a useful thing. We've been modeling search results rank SEO tools and platforms. As long as you understand it's a model and not real actual user data being reported. Bing is the only platform right now that gives you any real data about what their users are doing with the AI. And that's new. That's recent. So go experiment with them. Talk to them. Okay, get a demo. Ask them, what is it that you think you're doing that works? Why do you think that? What are your clients telling you? We've worked with one AI platform. I'm under non-disclosure. I can't talk about what I do, my full-time job. I'm sorry. But we've worked with one AI platform for over a year, and we've given them feedback, as have their other customers. And they've responded to our feedback. Sometimes they've done exactly what we've asked, and sometimes they haven't. And so I think that it's an evolving industry. It's still very young. But as long as you understand that you're working with models and they're trying to give you good simulations that you have control over, then you can learn how these systems are interacting with people, even if you don't know exactly what people are asking. But what you can see in your own analytics is, which of your pages are getting traffic, where you're getting conversions. Simon's right. Test everything. Test everything. And ask questions of everybody.
My question is, you mentioned that authority is different thing for different people and etc. vice versa. What is authority for Google in your opinion? So when they say it's an authoritative site, why? What is it like? How to measure?
Yeah. So that's always been a confusing topic for people because it depends on which Googler you're talking to as to what the word authority means. A lot of the times when they talk about authority, they're talking about PageRank, which is their analysis of the link structure on the web, or of the link structure in their index. And you have follow links and no follow links, right? Well, you also have rel equals sponsored, and now they say they may follow links that you don't want followed. They may count links that you don't want counted. In your user comments or whatever. But basically, that's one form of authority. Another form of authority is what we call brand, a brand value. And former Google CEO Eric Schmidt came out 15, 16 years ago and said the cesspool of the web. And of course, a lot of us didn't like that because whose idea of a brand rules, right? And does that really mean that if you don't think a website is a brand, that it's a cesspool? He was very condescending in that, but he was also trying to answer a question very quickly and succinctly. I'll cut him some slack on that. And also the SEO community has done a great job of creating a cesspool on the web. And I'll admit it, I'm one of the people who did that, but it's not a cut and dried thing. There have been a lot of SEOs, very smart people, very well educated people who have talked to Googlers who've come out and said, this is what we think experience, expertise, authoritativeness, and trustworthiness boils down to. And so those opinions are valuable in that they give you something to work with, to test. And if you don't like it, then you don't have to use it. You're not ruled by it. Google is not bound by anybody's opinion, and that includes my own. But I did a series of articles for our premium newsletters a few years ago talking about experience and expertise in particular. And I said that, and I've said this openly on social media many times, bylines don't mean anything to the search engine algorithms. They do not. There's something I call the Wikipedia test. Wikipedia does not attribute articles to authors. I mean, you can go into the history and see who's contributed, but there is no byline on a Wikipedia article. And Wikipedia just dominates search results in so many ways. And it's, it's in the knowledge graph, and it's in the knowledge boxes. And, they use Wikipedia in AI overviews. And you still got people out there today saying, well, if you want to appear in AI overviews, put a byline on your website. And it's like, shoot me now. It doesn't work that way. It's not that simple. So, expertise is not what you claim to be. Expertise is what you express. And I went out to a couple of web forums, random web forums. One was for aviation enthusiasts. And I pulled a bunch of quotes from these discussions where they talked about airplane models, engines, engine components, all sorts of stuff. And I said, look, this is what people who do, I'm talking mechanics and pilots, people who work with this equipment day in and day out, and they would just randomly spout stuff off like it was nothing. That's what an expert talks like. That's what an expert sounds like. When you do a case study where you talk about how you built your own website and all the tools that you use to build that website, you are an expert. That's your expertise. That's your experience. That is where you're expressing yourself. If you're a freelancer, you go out and you read 16 blogs on how to raise pandas in a zoo, and then you summarize all that and write an article, you're not an expert. You're not expressing expertise. You're just somebody who's summarizing what other websites have said. And the search engine algorithms are far better at detecting that now than they were, say, 5 years ago. So
How do they do that? So what's the
it's
algorithm?
just patterns in the data. I mean, if you get down to the transformer level, they're computing weighted averages between, they use weighted averages to show how the words are related to each other. The math makes sense to me because I've studied, I've watched university lectures, I've studied blogs by the people who write these things, these systems and stuff like that. And it takes more than a day to get this into your head straight. But basically, they just collect a lot of data. They figure out ways to quantify that data, and then they just experiment with it over and over and over again. This is why I tell people to ignore the people who are trying to reverse engineer systems from the API documentation. Those APIs were created for people to run experiments. They were not created for running search engines on the web. And so you get names out of these APIs, and you get ideas for what these things are used for. They're just doing experiments. They're trying to see for them internally what works or what can work, what might work. But that doesn't show how all that stuff is used, if it's used by a search engine. And we're running out of time here, but search engines are very complex systems. I've worked on large, complex software as a programmer, developer. And there is no way to predict or reverse engineer what these big software systems do from API documentation. That's just nonsense. That is absolute total nonsense.
So I take, for example, all these articles. I use AI and I add something unique, something like from internal knowledge of my company. I don't know, some case studies of the clients of this company, whatever. And I create lots of unique pieces of content, generate them with AI in 5 minutes because it doesn't matter if I generate them or not. There's some unique information there. Will Google penalize me for this kind of content?
I've never seen a penalty for that. I once got a penalty on my web forums. We're talking over 20 years ago. I created a new section in my SF fandom forums, and I used RSS feeds to create posts in that one section. Google immediately penalized the entire website. So I took the RSS feeds down, and I filed, the reconsideration request. I said, okay, lesson learned. And they, the website came back the next day. So I was down for like 2 or 3 days, and that was it. But the AI thing, I've read AI news for over 15 years. it's all over the news indexes, and the search engines don't have a problem with it. If it boils down to clutter, just random stuff, I I don't know. I mean, I haven't seen anybody get an actual penalty with an AI. It just doesn't compute that way. They're more likely to ignore it. I mean, if I had to answer the question today, if somebody said, you know, the income for the rest of your life depends on how you answer this question, why are brands getting it in the AI overviews and nobody else is? I would say probably just because they're brands. There's so much replicative content out there, they have to pick something. And so they're going to go with the brand sites more often than
So
anybody else.
that was my next question.
my
So
best guess.
imagine Google doesn't penalize me. I go number one for major queries, and authoritative websites like, I don't know, whatever they are, India Times or what people usually compete with in nowadays, and they use AI a lot too. They've let go their journalists. They now generate everything with ChatGPT or anything. So they take my unique views, they reiterate it and post it, and there are many of them. And now my article is not that unique. Now these more authoritative websites has the same idea taken from me, Reddit post, Quora post, whatever else. And what happens next? I go down, they go up. What do I do?
What I've told our premium subscribers, based on the various analyses that I've run over the last couple of years, and also based on a number of case studies that I've read in the SEO community, some of them are very good. And I like Search Engine Land and Search Engine Journal. They're both very good websites. And so, they're kind of inconsistent in the quality, but they are very good. So, what I've found is that the LLMs, and this is borne out by some of the university lectures I've watched, the LLMs are going with consensus. Who's a brand and who's not? Well, whoever gets talked about the most by reliable, authoritative websites. So brands talking about brands, different kinds of brands talking about different kinds of brands. When somebody in the SEO community said, "Oh, well, let's all go out there and just publish listicles on the link selling websites," I laughed. I said, "This ain't going to work." And so far, I haven't seen very many people come back and say, "Oh yeah, it worked for me." To be honest, I can't think of one person who said it worked for them. But I'll kind of leave out the possibility that it might have worked for somebody for a while. I don't know, but listicles are a thing. They've always been a thing. My partner Randy and I have published listicle websites, but you can't just go put listicles on blogs selling, blog article placement and expect to compete with the big brands, because they're being mentioned over and over again by news websites and industry specific product review websites, a lot of high quality sites.
So the last question, because we are running out of time, but I wanted to ask you, like from the very beginning, it is so difficult now. Like these big brands, they get natural mentions, they get natural backlinks, they get press releases, everything. For any smaller business or small freelancer or blogger or whoever else, it is so difficult to get backlinks nowadays. And even if they go to some, I don't know, marketplace, backlinks, buy something, it won't work. So they'll just waste their money most of the time. And for some of them, building PBNs is not an option for many of us because it's difficult, it's time consuming, you need to manage it. And it's also maybe very expensive if you are a small business creating a big network. So what's the option? How can, because they are important, I guess you will admit.
Yeah. Well, I've seen a lot of news stories over the years about small businesses in their local newspapers and magazines. Local news is where I would recommend people start. If you've got something that benefits you, if you're a brick and mortar business, it's easier. If you got something that benefits your community, then your community news will want to report on that eventually. You might have to work with a PR specialist. For people who are doing strictly online businesses, they can still be quoted by news experts, journalists. I see them all the time. People who have websites on Shopify and Etsy and so forth, they get quoted in the news. I mean, sooner or later, you just need to be notable in some. That is very hard. I say that as someone who has been quoted in newspapers and magazines around the world for many years. Something I went out and tried to do. It just happens when you become visible enough. It's just going to happen, and so you have to build your visibility.
Okay. Thank you so much, Michael. You can follow Michael on LinkedIn, subscribe to him in his newsletter, and go read the SEO Theory blog. Please also either donate or share this video. I think it is one of the most useful videos you've ever seen in your life. So here's the link below. And thank you. See you next time. Thank you,
Thank you for
Michael.
having me.
Thanks, Michael.